The $20,000 I sent for her brother's heart surgery was gone. I knew that the second the wire transfer went through. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have possibly fathomed as I sat there in the sterile silence of the bank, was that the brother himself was also gone. He had never existed. My name is Robert. I am 57 years old, and this is the story of how I fell in love with a ghost, a beautiful, smiling phantom who dismantled my life one desperate plea at a time. It's a story about a quiet man's profound loneliness and how the echo in an empty heart can be loud enough to drown out every single warning bell. It's not just a story about losing money, it's about losing my grip on reality, my dignity, and almost myself. Before I take you back to the beginning, to the first message that lit up my phone and my life, I want to ask you something. If you believe that stories are more than just entertainment, that they are windows into the most vulnerable parts of the human soul, then please consider subscribing to this channel. You won't just be a viewer, you'll be a witness to the journeys that shape us, break us, and ultimately teach us how to rebuild. My life before Lina was a study in quiet order. I was a retired architect, a man who had spent 40 years drawing straight lines and calculating load-bearing capacities. My world was built on logic, on blueprints, on the predictable physics of stress and support. My wife, Helen, had been the one to bring the chaos, the colour, the unpredictable joy. She was the garden to my grid paper. 5 years ago, cancer had taken her, and with her, it took the lifeblood of our home. The house we built together, a sprawling testament to our shared dreams, became a museum of her absence. Her favourite armchair in the den collected a thin layer of dust I couldn't bring myself to wipe away. The scent of her lemon verbena soap had long faded from the bathroom, but I still imagined it sometimes. I lived in a fortress of memories, each one a bittersweet reminder of the life I had, a life that felt as distant as a childhood dream. My days fell into a rhythm of profound emptiness. I'd wake up, make coffee for one, read the newspaper from front to back, and then tend to Helen's garden. It was the only place where things still grew. I talked to her roses, I told them about my day. My 2 children, both grown and with families of their own in different states, would call every Sunday. They were good kids, loving and concerned, but I could hear the gentle pity in their voices. "Dad, you should get out more, join a club, maybe try dating." I'd always brush it off. Who would want a 57-year-old man whose heart was buried 6 feet under with his wife? I wasn't looking for love, I was just enduring. The loneliness wasn't a sharp pain anymore, it was a dull, constant ache, a low-grade fever of the soul. It was the silence in the car, the single plate on the dinner table, the other side of the bed that remained perpetually cold. I wasn't unhappy, not exactly, I was just hollow. And a hollow vessel is dangerously easy to fill. One night, drowning in the blue light of my tablet, I did what I swore I never would. I downloaded a dating app. Not one of the mainstream ones, but a site that promised international connections, a bridge across oceans for those seeking something different. I built a profile that was as honest and plain as I was. Robert, 57, widowed, retired architect from Ohio. Likes gardening, old movies, and quiet evenings. I posted a single, awkward photo of myself at my son's wedding, smiling a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. I didn't expect anything. And for weeks, nothing happened. Then a message appeared. It was from a woman named Lina, from the Philippines. Her profile picture was breathtaking. She had a smile that could have powered a small city, dark eyes that seemed to hold both warmth and a hint of sadness, and long black hair that fell over her shoulders. She was 32. Her bio was simple. She was a caregiver for her elderly parents, a devout Christian, and she was looking for a kind, stable man to build a future with. She said she valued wisdom and loyalty over youthful folly. Her first message was simple. "You have a very kind face, Robert." It was nothing, a simple line of text, but in the echoing silence of my life, it was a symphony. We started talking, every day. The 12-hour time difference became a strange, intimate part of our routine. I'd wake up to a long, beautifully written message from her, detailing her day. She described the market in her small village, the taste of the mangoes, the sound of the rain on their tin roof. She made her world sound so vibrant, so real. I'd go to bed late, after hours of chatting with her as her day began. She asked me about Helen, not in a prying way, but with a gentle reverence. She made me feel like my grief was not a burden, but a testament to my capacity for love. She called me her gentle giant, her wise man. For the first time in 5 years, someone was seeing me, not the shell of a man I had become. She was filling the hollow spaces, one word, one smile emoji at a time. I was falling for her, falling for the idea of her, for the feeling she gave me, the feeling of being needed again. Our connection intensified at a dizzying pace. Within a month we were exchanging I love yous. It felt fast, dangerously so, but my heart, starved for affection, devoured every word. We made plans. She would come to America, we would get married, she would help me in the garden, she would fill the house with her laughter, with the smell of the Filipino dishes she promised to cook for me. I was living in a fantasy, a beautiful, intoxicating dream woven from text messages and carefully selected photos. The first red flag appeared, small and easily dismissed. I wanted to see her, to hear her voice in real time. I asked for a video call. "Oh, my love," she wrote back, her message laced with laughing and crying emojis. "My phone is so old, the camera is broken, and the internet in my village is too weak for video. I am saving for a new one, but it is so expensive here." It sounded plausible. I'd read about infrastructure issues in rural parts of the Philippines. A week later, I sent her $300. "For a new phone," I told her, "so I can finally see your beautiful smile." The gratitude that poured through my screen was overwhelming. I was her hero, her saviour. The money was sent, but the video calls never came. The new phone, she explained, was stolen on her way back from the city. Then the replacement she bought with the insurance money was a cheap knockoff that didn't work properly. Each excuse was layered with so much drama and despair that to question it felt cruel. How could I accuse this sweet, unfortunate woman of lying? I was the stable one, the protector. My role was to believe, to support. The second red flag was her family. She spoke of them constantly, her ageing mother, her frail father, and her younger brother, Miguel, who worked odd jobs to support them all. Yet I never spoke to any of them. Whenever I asked, they were conveniently asleep, or out in the fields, or at church. "They are very shy, my love," she would say. "They don't speak English well. They are afraid of embarrassing themselves in front of my handsome American man." Again it seemed plausible. I was so caught up in the romance, so desperate for the future she was painting, that I chose to see these inconsistencies not as warnings, but as charming quirks of her simple, provincial life. I was not just ignoring red flags, I was actively painting them white. The dependency started subtly, a slow drip of need that gradually eroded my financial foundations. It began not as a demand, but as a shared burden. She wasn't asking for a handout, she was letting me into the struggles of her life, making me a partner in her survival. It started with her mother's medication. $150 for a month's supply of insulin. "I am so ashamed to ask, Robert," she texted, her words punctuated with weeping emojis. "I will pay you back as soon as Miguel gets paid." I sent the money instantly, feeling a surge of protective pride. "Don't you dare talk about paying me back," I replied. "We are a team. Your family is my family." A few weeks later, a typhoon. It was all over the news, and my heart seized with panic. I messaged her frantically. She replied hours later, telling me she was safe, but the roof of their small home was badly damaged. The photos she sent were generic images of storm damage, easily found on the internet, but in my state of emotional turmoil, they were harrowing proof. "We are all sleeping in one room, the rain is coming in," she wrote. "It will cost $800 to fix it. I don't know what we will do." I didn't hesitate. I wired $1,000, telling her to use the extra for food. Each crisis I solved, each dollar I sent, forged a stronger bond between us. I wasn't just her lover anymore, I was her provider, her rock, her hero in a faraway land. My savings account, once a symbol of a lifetime of careful planning, was becoming a lifeline to a woman I had never met. My rational mind, the architect, was walled off, locked in a soundproof room, while my lonely heart was at the controls, signing off on every transaction. My emotional investment was so deep that the financial investment felt like a necessary component of it. I wasn't buying her affection, I was securing our future. I was paying the price of admission into her life, a life that promised to fill the void in mine. The more I gave, the more I needed her to be real. The truth would have meant not only that the money was gone, but that the love, the hope, the entire future I had built in my mind was a lie. And that was a price I was not yet willing to pay. The final act, the one that brought the whole fragile structure crashing down, was built around the phantom brother, Miguel. He had been a recurring character in our story, the hard-working, selfless younger brother. One frantic message at 3 a.m. jolted me from my sleep. It was from Lina. "Robert, my love, something terrible has happened. It's Miguel." My blood ran cold. She told me he had collapsed at work. His heart, a congenital defect they never knew about. He was in a private hospital in Manila, and he needed emergency open-heart surgery to survive. The cost, she wrote, was astronomical. They had to pay a deposit up front. The figure she typed made my vision swim. $20,000. "I know it is too much to ask," she wrote, her message a torrent of digital tears. "We will lose him, Robert. I will lose my brother. My parents will not survive this." She had me. She had targeted the two things I couldn't bear: the thought of her suffering and the idea of a family being shattered by a tragedy I could prevent. For 2 days, she applied relentless pressure. She sent photos of what she claimed was the hospital, blurry, generic corridors. She sent audio messages of herself, sobbing uncontrollably, begging me to save him. She told me I was their only hope. The world had shrunk to the size of my phone screen, and her desperation was the only reality. The architect in me, the planner, the logical man, was gone. All that was left was a man terrified of losing the first glimmer of light he'd seen in 5 years. I went to the bank. I liquidated stocks I had held for 30 years, investments meant for my own old age, for my grandchildren. The bank teller looked at me with concern as I arranged the wire transfer to a personal account in the Philippines. "Sir, are you sure about this? We see these kinds of scams all the time." I felt a flash of anger. "This is a family emergency," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "This is to save a young man's life." I pressed confirm. The money was gone. I felt a strange, hollow sense of peace. I had done it. I was a hero. For 48 hours, her replies were sparse. She was at the hospital, she said. The surgery was a success. Miguel was recovering. She was exhausted, but so grateful. Then the messages became even rarer. Then they stopped. A week of silence. A week of my own messages going unanswered. The hollow peace curdled into a cold, creeping dread. The architect, long silenced, began to knock on the door of my consciousness. The questions I had so expertly suppressed began to surface. I did what I should have done a year earlier. I typed Private Investigator Manila into a search engine. I found a reputable firm, paid them $200, and gave them all the information I had on Lina and her family. The preliminary report came back in 24 hours. It was a single-page PDF. And as I read it, the floor fell out from under me. The hospital she named did not exist. There was no surgeon by that name registered in the Philippines. And the final, soul-crushing blow. A check of public birth records for her province showed her parents had only one child. A daughter. Lina. She never had a brother. This was the moment my world didn't just crack, it atomized. The love, the hope, the future. It was all a fabrication, a meticulously crafted lie designed to bleed me dry. I felt a fool, A cliché, a lonely old man from a cautionary tale, but beneath the shame, a cold, hard anger began to form. If you've ever felt that gut-wrenching feeling of betrayal, of your reality being pulled out from under you like a cheap rug, or if you know someone who has gone through something similar, please share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. It helps to know you're not alone, and if you haven't already, please subscribe so you don't miss how this devastating revelation turned into an even darker conflict. My first instinct was to confront her. I needed to hear her admit it. I sent her a simple message. "We need to talk. I know about Miguel." The response was instantaneous, but it wasn't the tearful confession I expected. The sweet, vulnerable Lina was gone. In her place was a cold, calculating stranger. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied. "My brother is recovering. You are being cruel." I laid out the facts, the investigator's report, the non-existent hospital, the fictional brother. I watched the 3 dots appear and disappear as she typed her response. The mask didn't just slip, it was torn off. Her tone shifted from feigned ignorance to pure venom. "So what if you know?" she wrote. "You think you are so smart? You lonely old man. You wanted a fantasy and I gave it to you. You paid for it." And then came the blackmail. "I have everything, Robert. Every message, every declaration of love, every pathetic, lonely thing you ever said to me. I have the photo you sent on your birthday. How would your children feel seeing their sad father begging a young woman for love? What would your precious dead wife's family think? I will post it all. I will create profiles on every social media site. I will show the world who you really are. A pathetic old fool preying on a poor girl from a third world country." I was trapped. The shame I felt over losing the money was nothing compared to the terror of this public humiliation. She had taken my savings, but now she was threatening to take my dignity, to poison the memories of my wife, to destroy my relationship with my children. The control was completely gone. I was no longer a victim of a scam. I was a hostage. For days, I barely moved. I sat in Helen's armchair, the phone dark in my hand, as her threats escalated. She wanted more money. $5,000 for her silence. Then $10,000. The house that was once a sanctuary of memories now felt like a prison. Every shadow looked like a judgment. I was at the mercy of a person who didn't exist, a ghost who had complete power over my life. I hit a bottom so deep I couldn't see any light. The shame was a physical weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I thought about just paying her, making it all go away, disappearing into the quiet ruin she had made of my life. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. I was staring blankly at the wall when my eyes landed on a framed photo on the mantelpiece. It was of me and Helen, taken on our 30th anniversary. She was laughing, her head thrown back, her eyes sparkling with the fierce, unshakable spirit I had fallen in love with. And in that moment, I asked myself a question that changed everything. What would Helen do? She wouldn't cower. She wouldn't pay a blackmailer. She would have been furious, yes, but she would have fought. She would have told me that my dignity was not something a stranger on the internet could take, it was something I had to claim for myself. She would have told me that the greatest shame was not in being deceived, but in letting that deception define me. A wave of clarity washed over me, so powerful it felt like a physical shock. This wasn't about the money or the humiliation anymore. This was about my soul. Staying silent, paying her off, was letting her win. It was letting the lie triumph over the truth. My rebellion wouldn't be loud or violent, it would be quiet and absolute. I picked up my phone, my hand shaking not with fear, but with resolve. I opened our chat. I looked at her last message, a cold, demanding threat for money. I didn't type a reply, I just pressed block. Then I blocked her number. I deactivated the dating profile. I severed every digital thread that connected my world to hers. Then I did the hardest thing of all. I called my son. "I need to tell you something," I began, "and I need you to just listen." The silence on the other end was terrifying, but it was a real silence, not the manufactured one from a scammer's playbook. My decision was made. The war was not over, but I had finally chosen to fight back. The aftermath was brutal. Telling my children was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I saw the shock, the pity, and the anger in their eyes. But beneath it all, there was love and support. They didn't see a fool. They saw their father, grieving and lonely, who had been cruelly exploited. Their compassion was the first stepping stone out of the pit of my shame. On their advice, I filed a report with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Centre, the IC3. I knew the chances of recovering the money were almost zero, and the chances of catching her were even smaller. But it wasn't about that. It was an act of reclamation, of officially documenting the crime, of turning my secret shame into a public record of her wrongdoing. My son helped me find a therapist, a kind woman who specialised in trauma. In our first session, I couldn't even make eye contact. I just stared at the floor and recounted the story in a monotone, as if it had happened to someone else. She didn't judge. She just listened. And she gave me a name for what I was feeling. Not just foolishness, but profound grief. I was mourning the loss of a person who never existed, a future that was never real. I was grieving the death of a dream. She encouraged me to join an online support group for victims of romance fraud. It was a revelation. I read stories from men and women, young and old, from all walks of life, who had been through the same hell. Highly intelligent people, doctors, lawyers, engineers, all ensnared by the same tactics. I wasn't a uniquely gullible fool. I was just human. I had a fundamental human need for connection, and a predator had expertly weaponized it against me. Slowly, I began to put the pieces back together. I started with the garden. I spent hours digging, planting and pruning, feeling the solid earth under my fingernails. It was real. It was tangible. Unlike Lina, the roses I cared for bloomed in response to my attention. I started calling old friends I drifted away from during my year-long digital affair. I reconnected with the real world, one awkward coffee, one shared memory at a time. The house was still quiet, but the quality of the silence had changed. It was no longer the oppressive echo of absence. It was becoming peaceful again. It was my space, my home, and I was taking it back. My story doesn't have a Hollywood ending. The money is gone forever. I never heard from Lina again, and I know she is likely out there right now, weaving a new web for another lonely heart. I am not the same man I was before her. The scars are there. A part of me will always be more cautious, more guarded. But the experience, as devastating as it was, taught me something profound. The lesson wasn't never trust anyone. The lesson was that my self-worth cannot be dependent on someone else's affection. I fell into the trap because I was looking for a purpose outside of myself, a person to save so that I could feel valuable. I learned that my value was never in question. It exists in the love I have for my children, in the beauty of the garden I tend, in the loyalty of the friends who stood by me, and in the memory of the wonderful, real love I shared with my wife. My hope now is not for a new romance to fill the void. My hope is in myself. It's in rediscovering the man I was before the grief and the loneliness consumed me. It's a quieter hope, but it's real and it's mine. To anyone listening who feels that same ache of loneliness, I urge you, be careful. The world can be a dangerous place for a vulnerable heart. But do not let that fear close you off from real connection. Talk to people you trust. Cherish the friends and family who are physically in your life. And if something or someone feels too good to be true, please believe that it is. Your own life, your own peace of mind is worth more than any fantasy. My story is one of many, a single voice in a choir of the deceived. But in sharing it, I hope to turn my pain into a warning and my survival into a beacon of hope for someone else. If these stories resonate with you, if you believe in the power of truth and resilience, please subscribe to our channel, leave a comment with your thoughts, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another journey. Thank you for listening.